Ashish, thank you very much for being here. Good speaking to you. Always good to have you here. We're just talking that it's a good opportunity to meet friends and catch up with the market, right?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me here. It's always great to be at GRI and really catch up with all your industry colleagues and friends. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let's talk to the broad audience here. If somebody asks you what Certus Capital do, how would you explain that?
So see, I think Certus Capital, we started Certus Capital. I'd been at Morgan Stanley and KKR before we starting Certus Capital 5 years ago. And I think our core focus of Certus Capital is to really provide solution-oriented capital to the Indian real estate sector. Where we are very focused on right now is doing financing to the sector. That's our core business right now. But during this process, and since we started, there has been a lot going on. There was Indian credit crisis, there was COVID and all that. So we worked with a lot of foreign funds, did more than $1 billion of advisory business on that. And now we are focused more on investing our own prop capital into the sector, right? Most of this capital is for developmental finance, generally residential, office, hospitality and warehousing, and that's what we do.
Interesting. You mentioned the foreign capital and you are very used to talking to them for your long time experience in real estate. How do you see the foreign investors' interest for India at the moment? Do you see it getting stronger and stronger because of the international scenario or same thing?
So honestly, it's a bit of a mixed bag as of now. So let me put it this way, that at a fundamental level, I think most major foreign investors who are global in nature have a presence in India. And they have no doubts about maintaining that presence on a very long-term and strategic basis, right? Asian capital is a little bit more active than Western capital because yields in West has really shot up, right? Or the returns, there's a lot more dislocation in the West right now as compared to the dislocation in India. So on a relative basis, we have seen a little bit cooling off of interest of the Western capital, but Asian capital, especially Singaporean and Japanese, is still very strong.
Interesting. And talking about the Indian market now, you mentioned different asset classes. Do you see a trophy asset? Is there any best opportunity here related to a specific asset classes or any location that is bringing the best opportunity now?
So I think what we like best right now, and this is more a play of domestic capital at this moment, we really like credit in residential. I mean, residential was in a bit of a bad shape over the last 5-6 years. And I think it is really going through a massive up cycle. And we are just at the beginning of that up cycle. So we do see a good amount of energy for the next 6-7 years in that. And credit within that is very interesting because you're almost making mid-teens to high-teens returns on that on a senior secured basis. So that I think is very interesting. Retail, I think, is doing quite well, though it is a much more smaller asset class, right? But it's doing very well. Consumption story is very strong. Most retail assets are seeing anywhere around 9 to 10% year-on-year growth in terms of consumption. I think office is going through a little bit of a challenge even in India. Back to office is still taking a little bit longer and so on and so forth, right? I think warehousing also at an operating level is a good, strong asset class. But I mean, when you talk to people in a very honest way, I think people are struggling to make return. Too much capital chasing limited number of opportunities. Yep.
Let's talk about your career a little bit, just about your perspective and lessons that you could have learned or you learned throughout your career. Yeah. If you had to pick one lesson that you have learned with so many years of experience, what would that be?
It's a hard one. Yeah, I think the one key lesson that I would say is that I'd been an investor most of my life, and you got to not ignore your instinct, because what happens when markets are hot, there's too much pressure to deploy or to follow what a lot of other people are doing. And there are times when you intuitively know it's not going to work out. And there are times in the past where I have not been able to resist the market pressure, and then it has not turned out well. So if you kind of stay with your discipline and instinct, I think you'll do fine.
Very good one. Final one. If you had to start all over again, would you be in real estate? Would you do something else?
I think I would be real estate.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me here today.